Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So today I want to react to a video from a YouTube creator that I discovered, I'd say a couple of months ago. Um, it's a Black Brazilian guy, and he's his channel. He's speaking in English. Um, I'm gonna, present his video. I had already reacted to one of his videos some weeks ago, and I said I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of his content. Um, he doesn't have a lot of viewership from what I'm seeing, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you. A lot of us tend to go to YouTube and look for, the videos that have the most likes, the most views, or whatever. And sometimes some of the best videos I find will have very few views. So it doesn't really matter to me how many views the video has. If the content is quality, it's something that I want to see. And sometimes I'm going to react to this. This is the case again with another one of his videos. So I'm going to get to that in a minute. Of course, I always like to set up my videos and put it into context. So that's what I'm going to do first. Today, the video I'm sharing with you today, I'm calling it The Slow Disappearance of the Black Family in Brazil, the dark side, or perhaps the light side of racial mixture. This is one of the topics that he's talking about in his video, even though he talks about more than just that. But, you know, in my almost 25-year experience with Brazil, these are some of the things that I've come to a conclusion about. And for many years, Black Brazilians just didn't see it that way. They saw it as, oh, well, that's the way you Americans see it. But as time went on, we're finding more and more Black Brazilians coming to some of the same conclusions that I've come to, other African Americans and other Black Brazilians who have come to some of these same conclusions. It appears to me, just like any other population, when a group has access to education and the information, then it's pretty easy for them to come to a certain conclusion. You'll understand more about what I'm talking about. I think it's kind of obvious what I'm talking about based on the title of this video, but let's get into this. Before I do, as usual, please like this video, share it. It helps with the Google's YouTube's algorithms. Subscribe to this channel if you've seen more than a few videos that you liked here, and click on the notification bell so that you know when I put up a new video. So let's get into the topic for today. Okay, so take a look at this picture. Um, this is the family of popular Brazilian musician Gilberto Gil. He's a guy, I mean, mad respect for him as a musician. He's one of Brazil's top, most well-loved, most well-respected musicians that ever came out of Brazil. He's always going to be one of the top 5, top 10 musicians known inside and outside of Brazil. I mean, Gilberto Gil. I'm sure if you go through his catalog, you're going to find some of the music that you might like. You're talking about Brazilian music. He's always been one of my favorite musicians, singers, songwriters, etc. But then there's the flip side. This is a topic that people in Black Brazilian activist circles have talked about. It's a lot of times it comes down to, what does Gilberto Gil's family look like? Now that people are more likely to be more critical of the results of centuries of racial mixture in Brazil, in some ways, Gilberto Gil's family has become like the poster child of what Black Brazilians are saying, like, wow, our families are disappearing because so many of us are mixing, and numerous videos, just look into the catalog, look into the archive. It's not the question of whether it's right or wrong, I'm saying. It's a question of the facts. What, 350 years after what the first Africans, well, about 400 years, almost 400 years since the first Africans started arriving in Brazil. This thing has been going on for centuries. So it's not a question of whether you're pro or you're against interracial marriage. That's not the question here. The question here is, Black Brazilians, after being engineered for decades to whiten their families, they look in Gilberto Gil's family and say, wow, all of us are headed this way. If we don't say, why don't we try to construct Black families? Okay. So this is what I'm saying about Gilberto Gil. His family has become the poster child for the Brazilian dream, the elite dream that says we want to whiten the population till all the Blacks and Browns and Indians are gone from Brazil, and Brazilians are represented by a more white or almost white population. Um, a lot of Black Brazilians who have traveled to the US, they'll comment on the high number of Black couples that they see when they go to the United States. It's like it's kind of like not the same as what they see in Brazil. People often speak on the Black representation that they see in the United States. You know, as much as Black Americans complain about sometimes how we feel invisible in the American media, it we're miles ahead when you consider the Black representation on American TV versus Black Brazilian representation in Brazil's media. It's not even close. Um, Also, what I want to talk about is when I get into this guy's video, he talks about something that I've said before. For years, Black Brazilian women, particularly feminists, have portrayed the mixture thing that's going on in Brazil as a thing that Black men are way ahead of the bunch in terms of wanting to whiten their families. And even, I see now that the media wanted to push that agenda. But what I'm saying is, if you listen to the voices of Black Brazilian males, Black Brazilian male says, you know, you guys do the exact same thing we do. So why are you pointing the finger at Black men when we're all victims of palmitagem? We all have been influenced to prefer white partners to create whiter kids. This guy talks, he doesn't go into this. Perhaps one day he will talk about this. He just said this in passing as he was doing the video. So let me get into what he actually said. Again, his video, that he called it the disappearance of Black families in Brazil. Okay, you can find this video on YouTube. So what is it? RICARDO K, I think is what he calls himself. I've been trying to find him on Instagram. I haven't been lucky up until this point, but listen to some of the things that he says in the video, and then I'm gonna come back and react to it.
Yesterday I was watching some videos from the Steve Harvey show, Family Feud, and it usually has two families, one white or Latino and the other family Black. To me, the view of a whole Black family is something so unusual here in Brazil that my mind just gets confused, happily confused. And I'm saying it directly from a country that sells an idea of being the blackest country outside of Africa, but it definitely is not. Brazil has a profound history with race mixing, which is developing the total extinction of Black people in this country, leaving only mongrels, stray dogs, whites, and some very few Black people with some kind of consciousness, a very few with some consciousness, but the majority of them have no consciousness at all about what it means to be Black. They're Black only on their skin, but inside their heads they believe they're white. They are totally voluntarily enslaved to the white supremacist agenda. This is the reality in Brazil. Even I myself for years looked for a Black woman, mainly of dark complexion, to create a family, but I could never find one, and even if I had found, I doubt very much a Black woman in Brazil would feel attracted to a Black man. The aberration was horrible of the mind of the Black people in Brazil. It's that even Black couples in fact are white supremacist couples. Even, I repeat it, even Black couples here in Brazil are in fact inside their head, and they believe it totally, that they're a white couple. So a Black couple in Brazil is almost always a white supremacist couple, since in here the color of the skin doesn't make a difference in the mind of the people. They're all white supremacists. So the Steve Harvey show, Family Feud, was a relief to my eyes. Entire Black families, wow, my dream of an ideal society. And of course, it's not enough them being Black. They need, all Black people in the world, they need Africanist consciousness. It's very important to highlight that. All Black people need Africanist consciousness. Black people in this world without Africanist consciousness are nothing but white people's slaves, because the propaganda and the white dominance in all areas, especially the vital ones such as education, agriculture, sciences, military, commerce, is total. It's a whole white dominance in these vital areas that we black people should dominate for ourselves, for our own sustainability. These are vital areas that we must dominate. We must create our own power nucleus, our own 100% black Africanist nation, with worldwide connection, with all Africans compromised with the healing of the scars of slavery since the Arab invasions in the 7th century, since the Arab invasions of Africa until nowadays. For this, black families are the very basis, the essential element. Unfortunately, in Brazil, I keep on looking for some very rare blacks to start this community. But I also count on the support of the brothers and sisters in USA and other probable places where conscious black people might live, to start the necessary Africanist community wherever it may be built. I count on your support to this channel, not for the purpose of speech, of appearing, but to urgently build our own 100% black Africanist nations. I live in a country where people like me are haunted, are truly haunted, not only by whites, but also by people who look exactly like me. Other black people will hunt black people. So the building of our own 100% Africanist black nation is something urgent.
Okay, looking at his name, I think I might have said the name wrong. I think what it's saying is I am Ricardo K. That's what it looks like to me as I look at the title of his channel again. Well, he talked about a lot of stuff that I've pointed out on this channel. Brazil's profound history of racial mixing, which is developing the total extinction of black people in this country, leaving only mongrels, stray dogs, whites, and some very few black people with some kind of consciousness, something that I've talked about a lot. When you look in Brazil's history, it's almost impossible. You can't really deal with Brazil without dealing with the racial mixture aspect, right? A video I did a couple months back, the problem with interracial love is that we're very good at producing new rich white people, but we don't produce new rich black people, all right? Interracial love does exist, but there are black people who use white people as a social passport to feel more accepted. Being in an interracial relationship is not synonymous with racism being over in Brazil, as numerous people have pointed this out as of late. One of the big issues, again, is not the issue of the existence of interracial relationships. The issue here is how black Brazilians and white Brazilians have been basically taught that whiteness is superior. You know, if you're white, you want to keep your family white. If you're black, you should aspire for your family to look whiter over the years. This is, let me come back to this real quick because this is something else that he said. He says, even I myself for years looked for a black woman mainly of dark complexion to create a family, but I could never find one. And even if I had found one, I doubt very much a black woman in Brazil would feel attracted to a black man. That's intriguing. You know, I haven't dated a lot of black Brazilian women or just Brazilian women in general. You know, my experience personally is very limited. So this is why I want to hear what some of the men have to say in Brazil. And he said it all. You know, when black men say, look, why are black women pointing the finger at us when black women do the same thing? Now, if you were to just go through celebrity black Brazilians, females, you're going to find that a lot of them are married to white males as well. You know, I've talked about this, you know, at length. So I think that's what he's pointing out there. I don't think he's necessarily pointing the finger at black women or black men. He's just saying overall, black men and black women, this is how they've been groomed. This is how they've been conditioned in Brazil. So he, as a person who has somewhat, whatever level of consciousness that he feels like a lot of the videos that I see on his channel, it's like he's making a cry, like, look, we need some help here. We are losing this battle. We are disappearing. He made a video, and I think he was like putting a shout out to Umar Johnson, like, Umar Johnson, y'all, you need to come down here. He has a very Pan-Africanist political view. So I'm sure he's watched a lot of content by Umar Johnson. And as I said, the last I heard, Umar Johnson was supposed to come to Brazil. It fell through for whatever. I don't know if it was money related. I don't know why it fell through. But I said before, Umar Johnson would probably lose his mind if he was to go down to Brazil and see how much of this is going on, right? He makes the accusation that he says that even black Brazilians are white supremacists because there's no view that says we need to support our own. We need to have, our own beauty aesthetic. We need to distribute and continue to pass black money around throughout the community. We need to have strong black families. And what he's come to conclusion as a black Brazilian is that black Brazilians themselves are actually white supremacists. That's another topic that I will take on maybe some other time. I want to continue to talk about what he said. One of the things that he also mentioned was this thing about we often focus on the European branch of the African slave trade when, by the accounts of many historians, the Arab slave trade that came centuries before was much worse and much more devastating for the black population. He also said, I live in a country where people like me are truly hunted, not only by whites, but also by people who look exactly like me, other black people who hunt black people. Intriguing that he says this, because let me see. I've talked about from time to time how much police violence goes on in Brazil, because we often talk about how big police violence is against the black population in the United States. But the violence of American police towards black Americans pales in comparison to the violence of Brazilian police versus black Brazilians. And what he's pointing out here, what I think he's pointing out, because he didn't specifically speak on police violence, but oftentimes when you see military police in Brazil having somebody jacked up in the street or firing a weapon or whatever, oftentimes it is a black Brazilian who's in the military police. So maybe that's what he means. I don't know if he meant specifically police violence or he was talking about just everyday street violence, where he's saying, look, it's not just white people killing black people, it's black people killing black people. Brazil, the murders that happen in Brazil, between the murders, everyday street violence, and the police violence, it's like Brazil is a country at war against itself. So the other thing I wanted to point out here, and I've done this in other videos and other blog posts, when he talks about how deep mixing goes in Brazil. I mean, if I wanted to, I could do a whole video, probably several videos on just look at the celebrities in Brazil. What type of people do they tend to have relationships with and reproduce and have children with? So everybody knows Neymar. This is Neymar's father. This is his son, Davi. So within a couple of generations, Neymar, I think he is expecting another child. If that child is not already born, not sure. This is what they say about black soccer players in Brazil. They all want to whiten their offspring. They all chase white women. So I've seen this a lot, among black Brazilian soccer players. But as I've said, other black men have said, and what this guy in the video that I'm reviewing right now, he said the same thing. No, it's all of us. Black Brazilian women do the same thing. This is popular actress Juliana Alves. This is Juliana Alves with her mother. This is Juliana Alves with her, I don't know, ex-boyfriend, ex-husband, and their child. I think they're divorced now. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. The point is, this is the man she had her child with. Then you have Sharon Menezes with her mother, Sharon Menezes with her husband and their daughter. Sharon Menezes made some news some months ago when she was talking about, like it was a big deal for her being a black woman raising a white child. Like, how can you really make a point of that when you choose to mix with somebody who's outside of your ethnic group? The possibility of that person your child coming out looking more like the non-black partner, it's a chance that you take. This is the popular singer, Wilson Simonal. I think Wilson Simonal died in like 2000, maybe 1999, 2000, somewhere in there. He was Wilson Simonal is considered like the first black pop superstar in Brazil back in the 60s, on through the 70s. His career, he was one of the first examples of a pop singer being canceled. That's a whole nother story that I don't have time to get into right now. There was a film about his life some years ago. So Wilson Simonal, these are his two boys, both musicians in their own right, Simoninha and Max de Castro. Max de Castro he's probably my favorite of all the new school Brazilian musicians. I don't know if Max de Castro has any kids, but Simoninha does have kids. So this is Simoninha, his wife, his two children, definitely looking, if not white, pretty close to white. Then we have one of my favorite Brazilian musicians, Djavan. This Djavan with his kids when they were smaller. Djavan more recently, this is his grandson here, and his grandson with his son. So we see from Djavan here down to a white or off-white great-grandchild. This is Djavan with another one of his grandkids. Then we have Jair Rodrigues, a popular samba singer from the 60s and 70s. Jair Rodrigues, I don't think it's been 10 years that he's been dead. Maybe, don't quote me. I was in Sao Paulo when he passed away. He's one of the most beloved samba singers in Brazil, so he died. So he had two musician kids. This is Jairzinho. He's another one of my favorites of the newer generation. This is his wife and their two children. This is Jair. This is Jair Rodrigues, Jair Oliveira's sister and the daughter of Jair Rodrigues, her husband and their two kids. So I can look at both of their kids, the kids of both the brother and the sister, and say they're not necessarily white. But when you make a comparison from where the clearly black father came to, or what he started out, what he looked like, and then up into what his grandkids look like, I mean, we see a clear move towards whiteness. I don't see either one of those kids as necessarily white, no, but we do see a whitening process going on. This is Jair Rodrigues with his son, his daughter, and then this is Jair Rodrigues, his wife. I believe this is Luciana Mello is the daughter's name. I think this is her husband. This is Jair Oliveira with his wife. So we see this continuous whitening. I always point out to the celebrities because they're more well known, but what we see with the celebrities is what's generally going on with the population as a whole. So this is what this guy is talking about in the video: the slow disappearance of the black family in Brazil. Anybody who's been there, if you've hung out in Brazil, if you're Brazilian, you know this is something that's going on. If you're watching this video, you've probably seen it in your own family. So it's not a dig. It's just, hey, I'm just speaking the facts about what's going on in Brazil. And this is a guy, I guess he's trying to sound the alarm. I don't know if it's too late, but as time goes on, more and more black Brazilians are willing to look at what's going on in Brazil and just be honest about it. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. What did you think? Drop a comment in the comment section, like this video, share this video. Definitely subscribe to this channel. Click on that notification bell so you'll know when I put up a new video. And with that said, I'm going to end the video here and request that you all come back. Check out the next video that I post here at Black Brazil Today.